Hello, I'd like to welcome all y'all to this week's issue of Agents in the Field for District 4. I'm Stephen Gowin. I'm County Extension Agent in Range County. This is Robert Grant. He's in Morris County as County Extension Agent. And today we're going to talk to y'all about some emerged plants and some weed control and water quality issues. Last week, Sarah and Jessica talked about algae and venominous algae, and they talked about that, and today we're going to take it a little bit step further and talk about some of these other plants that have created a big problem in the ponds. This farm pond that we're at today, as y'all can tell, this north end of this pond is really shallow, and we have lots of plants growing. The main thing you see growing out here is water primrose, and we'll go into that a little bit further. And then we have some water leaf, and we also have different types of sedges. And we're going to talk to y'all today about kind of how to control those and kind of the reasons behind it. If you look at the large part of the pond looks real good. The quality of the water is real good. It has a real good color to it, and it's really deep out through there. Where it's deep across the banks, we don't have any issues in weed problems. But where it's shallow, we have lots of issues on weed problems. So we need to, when we're constructing these ponds, reconstructing them, cleaning them out, some of these farm ponds, when it gets drought issues, we'll start cleaning them out. So when you clean them out, try to get them about 2 to 3 foot or 2.5 to 3 foot deep at the edges. If we can get that deep at the edges like that, we can control some of these issues and not have to use any chemicals or anything like that. What we have here is water primrose. I'm going to come a little bit closer. This water primrose, y'all can tell what it is by the red stem growing through here. It also, these white fibers that are growing off is actually roots that are actually will take root. So it starts in the shallow and grows out deeper and deeper and deeper. Along with that, we have a little bit of what Sarah showed y'all last week, a little bit of filamentous algae. And so in this pond, we have water primrose, some water leaf, which you can tell these skeletons back behind me here that I'm going to throw this plant on. Those skeletons are actually old pieces of water leaf. And my son fishes this pond quite a bit, so it makes a huge problem when it comes to fishing in the spring and the fall. So later down the road, we'll treat some of this. Robert's going to talk to you about treatment methods here in just a second. But the main thing I wanted to share with y'all today is there are different ways of controlling it. Chemical control, biological control, and mechanical control. And Robert will go into those, but the biggest thing is having your pond constructed right. If you have this neck in this pond, when it dries up, I'm going to try to deepen it to about 3 to 4 foot deep, and if I can get that done, it'll help control some of these issues later. So I'm going to turn it over to Robert, and he's going to talk to you about some other water quality issues and other things.
Okay, one of the first things that we're going to talk about, and it's the method that I use more often at my house than I do any these other methods we're going to talk about, is mechanical control. And what I do, my banks are like the banks of this pond. They're not too steep for me to use my tractor and brush hog. So I'll turn my brush hog on and I will back into the water, taking these weeds down and getting them below water level. And if it's hot outside, that'll usually take care of them and it'll eliminate the problem for the season. I may have to do it twice, but generally, I normally only have to do it once. The other aspects that we'll talk a little bit about are chemical controls. These are some of the chemicals that we picked up at the local farm store here in town. There's Diquat, there's Tsunami, Sonar, and Roundup. Those are all readily available to you at your local farm store or online, and you can use those and spray them and eliminate a lot of these water problems. Some of the questions that we get a lot of are how do I know how big my pond is? Well, there's a couple of ways that you can do that. You can go to the aquaticplant.tamu.edu website, and there's a pond calculator on there that'll help you figure the size and dimension of your pond and how many acre feet you have of water, and that'll help you in determining how much chemical you need. So you really need to do that first. You need to know the size of your pond, what you're getting into. Also, you need to know, do I have fish, and how to protect my fish, because some of these chemicals are not labeled for fish, and some of them are. The most important thing on the chemical aspect is to read the label and follow the directions. You can do a lot of damage to the ecosystem in a pond if you are not careful with following the label. On this particular pond, Stephen has an irrigation pipe that he pumps out of his pond, and he waters his garden and he waters his flower beds with that. So if he was going to treat with chemicals, keep in mind those chemicals would kill his flower beds and his grass, because they're gonna have odd effects on the grass and the flower beds, just like they would in a pond. So you need to make sure that you're not irrigating out of the pond at the time that you're using a chemical treatment. In saying that, by cleaning this up, you're making this more readily available for your cattle to utilize. You're improving the water quality because you're getting rid of some of your stagnant areas where your weeds will hold the water in and it will stagnate. And that's how we're improving our water quality on our ponds.
The other thing too, if I were treating this pond, I would not treat, even though we have had a lot of rainfall and some relatively mild temperatures, I would not treat the whole pond at the same time. Typically, we don't get fish killed necessarily from the chemicals. A lot of times when you've got a pond that's overpopulated like this, we kill everything at once. When that plant starts dying, it actually starts taking oxygen out of the pond. So when we treat a pond, we want to try to treat a third of it at a time. And so what I would do is treat up this neck all the way to the point of that dam, wait 2 weeks, and then treat more of it. So I would treat a third of this pond at a time, and that way it helps with water quality, fish quality. I still have some cover for my fish. We have this pond actually wasn't stocked with bass, but for some reason we've got plenty of bass in here, and my son catches quite a few good-sized bass out of it, so we want to protect those. And so we still want a little bit of cover for those bass. And so that's pretty much what we have today. One thing we want to remind everybody and think about, we have been seeing in different cases some true armyworms that have surfaced in northeast Texas. So ryegrass fields, wheat fields, young tender, Bermuda grass, go out and search those fields and make sure that you don't have any of that true armyworms.
Also, I want to refer you back to the aquaplant.tamu.edu website. If you go on that website, you can readily identify the plants that you have in your pond. They have great photographs that you can scan through and say, yes, I have that one, no, I don't have this one. There's also a chemical reference page on there that will tell you what chemicals kills what plant. That's probably one of our biggest issues with pond weed control, is you're using the wrong chemical on the wrong weed. So if you'll go to that site, aquaplants.tamu.edu, you can look those plants up, and there's a sheet that'll show you which chemicals to use.
Thank y'all very much. Hope y'all stay tuned for next week's edition.
Stay safe and protect yourselves.